Hi everybody. Welcome to this beautiful open mic, which is hosted by Angai and Slam Out Loud. My name is Jigyasa, and I'm the co-founder of Slam Out Loud. At Slam Out Loud, we use art forms like storytelling, theater, spoken word poetry, and visual art to build what we call creative confidence in children coming from disadvantaged communities, but mostly for them to find and have their voice. Um, Today, we're going to explore some beautiful voices across different horizons that speak about social justice issues, but that also speak about the yearnings of their heart. It is the Angai at 20 Forum, where we're celebrating 20 years ago, UN Girls Education Initiative was launched, and it was launched to promote a collective action for girls' education and gender equality. This whole past week at Education for Equality, Angai at 20 Forum, we've explored gender transformative potential of education in relation to 6 action areas. So gender-based violence, economic justice and rights, bodily autonomy, and sexual and reproductive health and rights, feminist action for climate justice, technology and innovation, and feminist movements and leadership. We've had a chance to reflect on all of these themes with different stakeholders from the gender, education, and development communities. Now, we're going to approach the themes of this forum with a slightly different angle, using art as a way to advance gender equality. Today, we're joined by poets from all around the world whose poetry is used as a form of activism. I hope you're ready to begin and keep flooding the comments with your thoughts, ideas, questions, whatever you're thinking, whatever is alive in you in this moment, and waiting to hear from our beautiful poets. If you also appreciate some poems, some poets, some lines, feel free to share that with us and let us know in the comments as well. So let's begin. All right. Let's begin with Jade. Jade is from New York City and she's a writer and climate activist. She was a youth organizer for the global climate strike in New York City. I would love for Jade to introduce herself and then share her poem.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Like Chigasa said, I'm Jade Lozada. I'm 18 years old and I'm from New York City. I work as a climate organizer with a youth activist organization called Triage, and we do electoral and policy work around the climate crisis, specifically in New York City. For me, I've been organizing around climate for a year now because while it is a scientific issue, it's also an issue of equality, of economic equality, of gender equality, and of every issue that really affects our lives in a meaningful way. So with that, I wrote a poem called Baby Girls, which centers around 2 girls of color on 2 opposite sides of the world dealing with the climate crisis. I originally performed it as part of a spoken word showcase called Climate Speaks here in New York. Here it goes. Sunrise. Split between 2 skies, lights the rooms of 2 baby girls. One rocked by the splatter of a shell, the other by a lullaby. Yet neither was ever safe, their cradles seated first in a dying race. One baby's brink of discovering why, headline on the news, "This is the world we deny." Blame to explain why baby girl doesn't beat the block so fast. Her lungs burnt black because her skin is to match reason, why the block smolders hot in the valley of July, scorching sweat sitting in the spirals of her curls, sending her to the AC so her dad can look at the bill when August breathes still and scrounge in his paycheck to give the family its fill. And that headline explains why the Valley of July burned baby girls' buildings. Her pizza shop, her ice cream place for the cheap price of a 5-year construction zone. So when baby girl isn't a baby anymore, on her block she can't afford a home. So her sidewalk matches the ash billowing on her television screen. Who knew her West Coast dream was so close? Baby girl was meant to be a Cali girl. Heat of July Valley girl, helpless to help the baby girl. Heat of Desert Valley girl, rocked by a shell girl across the world, accustomed to the sun on her face and the earth on her shoulders. That sun will crack her skin first, draw thirst from her lips, no call that will change a thing departs. Because baby girls, block girls, beat girls, burnt black girls are modern day atlases, tasked with the world's job. If only we didn't need a 16-year-old across the world to lead us, a mob. If this is the world we deny, who left baby girl across the world to die? Who is the one letting her lips run dry so she can't call them out nor they hear her cry? Who is letting baby girl's block blaze till it's put out by the waterline when it meets her gaze? Who? Who says that this is fate when the world we deny is run by states, elected to protect corporations suspect of raising us on their fossil fuel diet? So baby girls, block girls, burnt girls are shackled to a life they didn't choose. So baby boys, block boys, burnt boys can't find a sunrise to shine on them, so that neither knows that their life is worth more than a death stare across the Senate floor. That baby girl, bottle fed on, blinded by, bound to a lullaby, beats the block to school, bounds against the concrete, braces babies with a right hand over a broken heart. I pledge allegiance to the oil that Pinky promised me a future, and to the republic for which I lost it, one victim, under man, irreplaceable, with responsibility for all, even you. Thank you.
I will just let that sink in for a minute. For everybody who's watching us, although you're at home and we cannot create an atmosphere where we can hear you clicking, where we can see your faces smiling or connecting, but you can still be at home and still snap and still appreciate through your comment, or you can be at home and sit there snapping. All of us who are on this call, we can just take one moment to think about Jay's beautiful poem, and for other poets as well. Whenever we feel that we deeply connect with something, we can just snap. Let's just practice snapping for the next 10 seconds. Let's snap, 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 so that we remember snapping. And let's snap faster and a little slower, and we can stop. So remember to snap, remember to share how you're feeling with us, and remember to listen to these poems with your heart. And now I'd love to call upon our next performer, very, very special Muskan, who's an artist from Slam Out Loud. And she describes this journey as magical because she started writing poetry when she was in grade 6. And since then has now developed a deep connection with the stage. She believes that her words can inspire change. And she deeply believes in empathy. And for more, we would love to listen from her. Muskan, time to shine.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone, I'm Muskan. I'm a spoken word poet and I'm in grade 11, and I'm here to recite a poem about an issue that I strongly feel about, and I call it A Daughter's Confession. Dear Ami, funny how in the morning the alarm doesn't wake me up. Your voice calling my name does. But each and every day, dressing up for school feels like going for a war that I never want to fight. Becoming a soldier that I never want to be, and wearing a uniform that I never want to see myself in. But what if I tell you that the journey is harder than just dressing up? What if I tell you that at school I'm called an average kid? What if I tell you understanding what it means led me questioning into a puddle of misperceptions? Even after putting my nose to the grindstone, I saw my academic performance graph looking like the shape of a mountain. Understanding what it means led me questioning my existence, my achievements, my hard work, me and my identity, and greeting my abilities with multiple question marks. What if I tell you that it made me question the times I aspired fearlessly, the times I believed in my ambitions, when I could proudly recite my feelings in front of 1,000 people, when all I saw in the classroom was catcalling, rude comments, and arguments, and I believed that one day I'll hear them reciting poems and giving shout outs to each other. What if I tell you that it made me question the times I believed that my classroom could become a home of change makers and not bullies? What if I tell you that it felt like walking barefoot in the middle of a desert and finding a way home, a home that was never built? Questioning the times I failed but still did not stop believing. Broken dreams hit us hard, really hard. It exactly felt like how you felt on the day when you got married, right before the day of your biggest dance performance. It feels like spilling water on a canvas that you've been painting since months, and in my case, since years. My canvas looks all messed up. Your canvas looks all messed up. But this word hits me more. What if I tell you it feels like I'm broken into multiple fragments and this word destroyed all of them and only left a mountain-shaped graph? What if I tell you that at school they teach me calculation? I'm taught to calculate goodness with percentage, grades, and numbers. At school, they teach me languages but not to write a poem in those languages. At school, I'm taught to break myself and destroy everything other than the performance-shaped graph. What if I tell you that at school I'm greeted with thousands of question marks? At school, my identity is limited to an average kid. Being a part of those children who never really matter in the class, whose existence is no more important than the blackboard, the chalks, and the desks in a classroom. At school, we believe that a person who schools you is the person who educates you. At school, we believe that a person who schools you is called a teacher, and I am called an average kid. I'm sorry the system wasted all your efforts, broke you into pieces just like me. I'm sorry to tell you that this world holds no magic. But I know I will always see you and your eyes sparkling the most in the audience. And I know that is where miracles happen. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Muskan. Muskan and Jade, since you just performed, I would love to hear from you just a little bit about how do you think of your art form, of what you do as activism? Any of you can take this up.
Sure. I think in terms of activism, there are two issues that I strongly feel about, and one is gender equality, and the other is education inequity. I feel that writing poems in a way makes me realize and understand the problem and also create awareness about it, so that people can also understand the magnitude of the problem and how it impacts me and how it impacts the country.
All right. And have you ever had an experience where you felt that your art or your poems have actually caused any kind of transformation or any kind of movement?
Yes, I think listening to poems is a way of realizing things, and being a poet, I love listening to poems. And I think a lot of people have come up to me and told me that there are a lot of things that we don't even think about on a daily basis. For example, how we neglect these things that happen at school and how children's potential are undermined in schools, and how they are treated, and how, like people, so many children are subjected to being called average or normal or common, and it makes them understand that they don't have a special talent or they don't possess anything special. So I think through my poem, two, three people have told me that they were able to understand this problem.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Muskan. I hope all of you got a chance to snack at home because the opportunities were many. And now, moving to our next wonderful young poet, Jyoti. Jyoti is an 11th grade student whom I've had the honor of knowing again from Slam Out Loud. And she thinks that the biggest change and exploration that anyone can create is in your own self. She's on a journey of self exploration through her poetry. And she writes poems to feel more alive. She believes that the continuity of the world creates change. Jyoti, we're really, really happy to have you here. How are you?
Hi, Didi. Thank you so much. I'm really great. Hope you're doing great.
Can I ask you? Thank
Yeah.
you. Can I ask you a question before you begin?
Yeah.
All right. Jyoti, especially because you're a girl and one of your poems is about gender and what it is being a girl growing up in Delhi. I want to just hear from you a little bit about how do you think art can be used for gender equality, and have you ever thought of it in that way?
I think art has because I come from a very low income background yeah, and I was not, my parents had to struggle a lot in order to provide me this education. And then I was introduced to poetry. And when I was introduced to poetry, I started feeling more alive. I started making sense out of all these things. I was told to not wear this, I was told not to study, and I was not told to aspire. However, when I started writing and when my parents saw my writing and when they heard my poetries, they started believing in me, and they started feeling that yes, girls can do something. And I particularly feel that now in my family, because I became one of the first girl to pass grade 10th in my family, and then I'm in grade 12th now, and writing poems and going and expressing myself in writing has helped my family to really believe in. And now they actually don't really discriminate between girls and boys. So I think that art has brought that change in me, believing that yes, I can dream and I can do something, and for my family to believe that yes, girls are no more less than anyone else. So yeah, I think definitely art has brought a lot of change in me and people around me.
That's so wonderful to hear, Jyoti. You've been able to change so much within your own family, and most of us would struggle with that. Like I feel sometimes for me it's easier to go and talk to strangers and people I don't know and convince them of
Yeah.
something than my family itself. So really kudos to you on that, and we're all really proud of you. I think um, we know the circumstances you've come from, but when you perform, it's not about your background. It's really
Yeah.
about the power of your art, and it's time for that to take center stage. We're waiting for your poem.
Thank you so much, Didi. So the poem which I'm going to recite today, it is in Hindi, and I call that poem Mol Bhav. And I initially wrote that poem because my dad shouted at me and I didn't know how to express myself, how to respond him back. And I had my exam another day and I was really frustrated. So I wrote this poem, and here I began. यहाँ सब चीजों का मोल भाव होता है, आंखों से टपके हुए आंसू भी आके जाते हैं, और दिल की कोठरी में बसने वाले प्यार की भी कीमत लगती है। दिल का दर्द बयां करते हुए उन शब्दों की भी कीमत लगती है, और हवा भी बेची जाती है। उन बंद गुब्बारों में उस चांद की चांदनी को भी बेचा जाता है। मेरी कलम जो दिन भर अपने प्यार की प्यास को बुझाने के लिए कुछ लिखती है, उस कलम की भी कीमत लगती है उन बाजारों में। गुलाब की महक और मेरे जज्बातों को अपनी जिद के आगे उन्हें भी उछाला जाता है। क्योंकि इन बाजारों में खत भी अखबार बनाकर बेचे जाते हैं। यहाँ तो मोहब्बत को भी रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान की चादर से ढका जाता है और मेरी सोच, मेरे ख्यालों को अपनी बातों के तमाचे मारकर चुप कर दिया जाता है। मेरी पढ़ाई लिखाई का भी मोल भाव होता है और उसे भी कुचला जाता है उस अपनी गंदी सोच की जूती से, क्योंकि यहाँ सब चीजों का मोल भाव होता है। यहाँ तो इस मरे हुए शरीर की भी कीमत लगती है उन भगवानों के बनाए हुए सौदागरों के बीच में, और मेरे प्यार को भी बेचा जाता है उन बटुए में पड़े हुए नोटों से। यहाँ तो मेरे दुपट्टे की लंबाई और कुर्ते की चौड़ाई को देखते हैं और बताते हैं कि मुझ में कितनी शर्म, हया और इज्जत कितनी है, क्योंकि यहाँ सब चीजों का मोल भाव होता है। पर मेरे दिल के आशियाने में, मेरे प्यार के तकिए पे मेरे सपने खुलकर सोते हैं, पर उन्हें भी दूसरी सुबह जंग लड़ने भेजा जाता है और वे लहूलुहान होकर गिरते हैं, गिर कर उठते हैं, क्योंकि मेरे प्यार के तकिए पे मेरे सपने खुलकर सोते हैं। हाँ, यहाँ आंखों का काजल, होठों की लाली और तस्वुर से कुछ उधार लिए हुए पन्नों पर गिरी हुई स्याही और उस शफक से मुस्कुराते निशा को भी बेचा जाता है, क्योंकि यहाँ सब चीजों का मोल भाव होता है। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, Jyoti, for your poem. As you can see, lots of love pouring in for you within the chat. And we will also try and post a translation of this poem in English in the comments so that it becomes more accessible to more and more people. I now have our wonderful next performer. Her name is Alina Faye. Alina Faye is from Malawi, and she is a women's rights advocate and co-founder of the WONA Collective, an arts collective with a social impact. Hi, Alina Faye. We are so glad to have you here. Would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit, share maybe about your work and what you're here to perform today, and then give us your beautiful poem.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Nafe. I go by Nafe for short. I am a writer, a storyteller, as well as the founder of WONA Collective. So WONA is basically an arts collective that creates content for social impact. We were founded in October 2019, and the first project we had was the 16 Days of Poetry for 16 Days of Activism. And after that project, we kind of got energized to work on other things and work on other art forms as well, and work with other artists. So we have a plan for that, and we've been working towards that and working towards engaging more artists as well, so that we can create content that's not only empowering, but also to empower the artists that create the content as well, and to make people realize that art is it's not just aesthetically pleasing, but it can also be powerful and socially impactful as well. So my poem is called This Violence, which I wrote for the 16 Days of Poetry for 16 Days of Activism last year. And it's about sexual assault and gender-based violence. You are under the impression that tenderness would protect you, that a modest facade would be your shield. You thought if you wrapped yourself in conservative and bathed yourself in gentle, you would be safe. You clothed yourself in an armor of meek and demure. You put on a helmet of silence and made sure to cover your mouth. We told you to hide yourself, that we were sure this violence would not come for you, as long as you made silence your sanctuary. We convinced you that this violence preys only on confidence, that it follows only loud voices, sure voices, stalks only revealed skin. We swore to you that this violence follows only the clicking sound of high heels down dark alleyways at night, that your bare feet in the light of day would be safe. We promised you that this violence would stalk only the glow of brightly painted lips and would leave your bare face be, as long as you let your face be bare. We gave you a myriad of instructions, We told you that innocence would shield you, intelligence would protect you, that virtue would be your guard and purity its partner. But we lied because it found you. Because this violence knows no modesty, it knows no volume. It cares not whether your skin is naked or clothed. It ignores, it ignored, it will ignore your whispers, your shouts, your pleas. This violence has a mind of its own. I'm sorry we told you to temper your flames, to restrict your fire, to water down your pain. You are entitled to your pain. You are entitled to your anger. Because what else do you have when this violence takes everything else? When it cares not whether you are quiet or loud, gentle or firm, young or old, fast or slow, day or night, stranger or friend, it is not your fault, because this violence can find you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. I think we'll all need a break after listening to you. And I also, because I really, really connected to your poem, especially with everything that's going on. And I thought about the first line that you said. You thought tenderness would protect you, and I just want to ask your opinion. What protects you, Alina?
I think I've realized over time that all these things that we say will protect us may not protect us at all. That tender, whether you're tender, whether you're not, whether you're quiet, whether you're loud, it's not up to you to protect yourself anymore, because it's not on you. It's not my responsibility, because no matter what I do, if it wants to find me, it'll find me. And if people want to assault people, that's what will happen. And it's almost liberating to realize that it's not my fault and it's not any of my responsibility, but it's also very scary to realize that there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, we'll give that a well-deserved pause, and call upon the next poet that we have for today, Astha. Astha is a spoken word poet and an artist who believes in appreciating beauty, fostering voice, and good stories. Astha, I leave it to you to introduce yourself a little bit better, and also to bring us forth or introduce us to the poem that you've written.
Hi everyone, my name is Astha, and I'm going to be reading out a poem today which has two central characters. The first is my brother and the second is a friend, Somesh. And this poem is predominantly about something that I think we should all bring to the social space more, which is that a lot of times within communities who believe in the same thing, there is so much factionalism and we don't talk about it and we don't approach it with compassion when we encounter it. And this is about that. Somesh sent me a picture of an alien blue flower pressed between two glass slabs in some scientific lab, and I'm not sure what it is, but he says he introduced blue pigment to a flower. He says it's a transgenic plant, and once again I was reminded of how things are even more beautiful when they transform, and I've known a couple of trans people in my life and they've all been beautiful. My brother, who is both gay and effeminate, says cis people shouldn't talk about trans rights because they don't know shit and can't pretend to stand for things they don't understand, but I've seen Alok. get over 100 posts of hate mail for body hair and flowery dresses. Almost like our Alok's gardens are lit up in flames. I've known a professor who was thrown out of government universities for identifying and attempting to rectify the status of trans people. I've known a boy who was thrown out of school for wanting to wear clothing that's reserved for women. My brother, who is both gay and effeminate, says cis people shouldn't talk about trans rights because they don't know shit and can't pretend to stand for things they don't understand. But last night, a girl I spoke to on Tinder says she doesn't want to be a girl, but she also doesn't want to die. And I can no longer keep quiet. This is a country where we recognize the tricolors, but not the colors in the gender spectrum, where white and orange and green can adorn the streets for patriotism, but try adding blue and violet and indigo and yellow. Watch how the streets turn red. Congratulations, you have a rainbow that's overspilt from the edges, only to fall into the trembling palms of a little boy who is standing in his mother's oversized heels on his chair as he latches a door that's too big for him. Now rubbing a lipstick on his lips, hoping that his mother doesn't come home soon, all of this while he's counting on his chubby little fingers the number of sins he's responsible for, almost as if a being cannot be if they don't have the correct checkbox on one, or a bathroom, or basic rights, or unjudgmental eyes. I'm hoping someday we might realize that this government will only institutionalize our desires, make us believe that we must find a box that fits our type and sit in it, as if cardboard and tape can hold down the souls of people. These queer rainbows aren't identities, they are bruises on our backs. Blue bruised is the sky. You need bandages to stop the fluttering of your wings when you live in a country where it's illegal to fly, and I've stopped trying. I've always believed that stars aren't stars till they have their own light. Love stories aren't complete till you're all teary-eyed. I know the third gender has finally been recognized. But if I kept silent in celebration, I'd only be lying, because progress isn't progress if it doesn't move fast enough. I mean, what are letters and stamps if they can't change minds? What are legal documents when they can't hide the rampant discrimination that trans people live with? Like every day is a battle in outer space. Only that you are floating when everyone else is fine. And I've learned that documents are only one pebble in a stream. And to cross over, we'll need so much more. Our ridges are burning, churning more darkness with each rising flame, believe me. In all of these years, I haven't seen violence like I've seen it in our hearts, pouring out through our eyes in more arrows than Cupid could ever own. I get it now why both loving and killing is red. It's the color of our hearts. Our bloodstream only a river to hide hate, to watch how it meanders through public spaces like a late night song. Think of offices where signing your gender as other on a job application is only synonymous with no, you don't belong. In schools and colleges where a 4x4 toilet stall isn't safe. In public transport where eyes will only undress you to wonder what lies between your legs. This isn't imagined tyranny, believe me. For the trans community, this is reality, and I know because my brother, who's both gay and effeminate, says cis people shouldn't talk about trans rights because they don't know shit, but this is only him being insecure. This is him saying there's no point legalizing transsexuality when your laws are only a noose perched atop our heads as halos that will only slide down to our necks, leaving us struggling to breathe as if living isn't already about dying. This is him saying you can't have a transgender rights bill, saying, sure, you can be who you want. All you need is a medical examiner, a district magistrate, and a certificate to prove it. This is him saying you can't tell us you're breathing when you're the one holding the switch to the oxygen tank. My brother, who's both gay and effeminate, says cis people shouldn't talk about trans rights, but if you really listen and see what he is saying, you'll realize that this is him being an ostrich with his head in the sand, saying, I'm tired of being Pluto, just begging to belong. Today, my brother is pushing me away, just to see if I come back. And I am waiting to see whether Somesh will someday sit in a scientific lab use a glass slab and make a transgenic plant in rainbow colors, maybe then people will finally stop staring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asta, for that powerful, powerful poem. Um, so there was a line in your poem that said, "Stars aren't stars until they found their light." I wanted to ask what lights you up.
I think there are a lot of things that light me up, but other than being able to find beauty and gratitude in the world around me, I think the two things I absolutely love are vulnerabilities and discomfort. I think the most light that I have always found in my life has been when I have sought that light out. And there's so much more value when you are able to seek that light out. And whenever I have experienced vulnerabilities, whether it's somebody else or it's me, and discomfort, and they are both things that go together very often, I have found a lot of light in the love that gets shared, in the energy that gets exchanged, and in being able to build that space with someone where you are able to seek that light collectively and not alone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Asta. And again, audience, feel free to share your thoughts, your questions, your ideas on comments, and I hope Asta will take time to read them later. Because I resonated so much with her poem, and I think so many of you will as well. We have our next performer with us. Her name is Isadora. Isadora is one of the organizers of a poetry slam collective in Rio de Janeiro. And Isadora, we would love to hear from you about the poetry collective and about what you do, and then, of course, your poem. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. So my name is Isadora, and I'm one of the organizers of Islam Maré Cheia, which translates into High Tide Slam, which is the first and only poetry slam in the complex of Maré, which is a complex of 16 favelas in the north zone of Rio de Janeiro. And we live in a very complex territory with an ongoing genocide against the Black and poor people, and where we do not have access to so many basic human rights. So when you Google Maré, right, the complex of Maré on Google, you just see videos of shootings and things like that. But there's so much more to life here and people who live here. So we bring poetry to the streets of the favelas and speak about our truth and our reality to our people that most of the time don't see their reality represented in other form of art or social media, and they stop there, and when they identify, they clap and they are like, oh yeah, that's what this is about, and that's so powerful. So today I will be speaking a poem in Portuguese about a young mom from the favela like myself. So, a filha nos braços, na calma o sorriso, olhar calejado, já se acostumou com aquilo. Observa atenta a peça dos homens, para eles boemia, para ela só ordem. Comadres no canto conversam de fraldas, conversam de medos, conversam de faltas. Compadres no centro é farra, é folia, Babilônia e asfalto, as tretas, orgia. Mulheres que velam, mulheres que cuidam, que bem observam, que muito preocupam. Cuidar de uma casa, muito mais que isso. Papéis sociais, o que manda e o submisso. Quem é quem nessa história? Eu vou precisar falar olhares. falam por mim, a violência é secular. Quando ele bebe, fica foda. Já conheci vendendo droga, tô com ele há 8 anos, vou querer mudar ele agora. O pouquinho que ele ganha, gasta em entorpecente. Droga, fuga, vida bosta, para poder seguir em frente. Sociedade impõe pressão, traficar o ganha-pão, já foi preso, já foi solto, mergulhado na ilusão. Se de fralda para menina, ele trouxe o engradado. Fiquei lá me perguntando como é que aquilo ia ser usado. Chamei ele e falei, como é que eu vou fazer para com essa latinha limpar a bunda da nenê? São muitos anos, de muita coisa passada, de muita coisa vivida, de muita roupa lavada. O amor, depois de um tempo, já não sei como explicar. Conheço ele, cada jeito, conheço todo o olhar. Essa troca, que já foi uma poderosa paixão, hoje em dia para mim é quase conformação. Tatuou o nome da menina, ama a filha, bota o... Mas quem cuida e a conhece é mesmo só a mulher. Hoje em dia é bem comum, pai presente é muito raro. Que adianta dar o dinheiro e nem fazer supermercado? Não sabe o que o filho come, que médico ele vai, mas na hora da fotinha vai dizer que é o melhor pai. Molecada, chega de hipocrisia. Olha bem para o seu lado, cuida da sua família. Mulherada, entenda o seu valor, da sua luta e da sua vida. Não se renda ao opressor. Vamos entender o que é companheirismo. Correr junto, nós por nós, sem ninguém ficar omisso. Porque a fita é a vida da criança, que cresce com esse exemplo e é o futuro e a esperança. E é por isso que nós fala de mãe gentil. Porque o pai, com certeza, ninguém sabe, ninguém viu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isadora. I think while I couldn't understand your poem, the words of it, but I could really feel what was alive in you because of the passion you spoke with, and which is why I just want to ask you, what is alive within you right now?
I think this, I'm really glad to be here, and it's something that I didn't imagine. So just like how far you can go finding your voice and how important it is to be here representing my community and where I come from. Yeah, I think that's what is inside me right now.
Thank you. Thank you. You were beautiful. And thank you for being here. And now we have our next performer. Our next performer is Pindu. Pindu is a spoken word poet and feminist from Malawi, working on community development and advocating for sexual and reproductive health and rights. Pindu, you're welcome here. And before we get to listen to your wonderful poem, I would love to hear a little bit about you, your work, and how you think of art as education.
Hello everyone, my name is Pindu Banda. I am 22 years old and I'm from Lilongwe, Malawi. So I started writing poetry when I was in secondary school, and it was a way for me to express myself. I woke up one day and decided, I need to find a way to express myself. I need to find a way to tell my story. And more than that, I found that it was a way for me to tell other people's stories. I found it so powerful how I could take other people's experiences and put myself in their shoes and tell a story and actually have it make sense. So art for me has been more than just a way to express myself. It has been a way to allow other people to see themselves reflected in me, to see themselves the way that they ought to be seen, to feel represented, and then also find their own voices and find bravery and all that they need to come out and also be who they are. So the poem that I will be sharing with you today is entitled Woman Being for a Day. It is a piece that I wrote and love very much because I sat down and was able to reflect on a world in which everything goes as it should and not as it is right now. An alternate universe in which I am a woman above all else. I wake up in the morning and I do not feel like a guest in my own body. I do not frown upon my curves and edges. I do not hate my scars. I carry no shame. I have no walk of shame. Blood trickles down my thigh, and I am not fazed. I do not cry. I do not weep. I do not complain. I do not throw a fit. I mourn no death. I embody life. I walk out the door and I am wearing whatever the hell I want. It is just a shirt. It is just a skirt. They are just jeans. A girl compliments me and I smile graciously in appreciation. A boy tells me I am not beautiful or he prefers no makeup and I slam a door in his face. I share my opinions in public and they are not misplaced. They are mine. I laugh out loud, and when they tell me to act like a lady, I dance on the table. It is not that time of the month. I am not carrying around excess baggage. I do not need a man to pacify my anger. I am a woman. I pose for a picture, and I do not smile. I am not black. I am not white. I am not thick. I am not thin. I am not skin. I am not melanin. I am a woman. I walk past a group of men and I do not entice them. I do not pull them in with the look in my eyes or seduce them with the movement of my hips. I am not a distraction. I am not asking for it. I am not one of those girls. I am not a statistic. I am not a notch in a man's belt. I cannot be claimed. I cannot be had. I am a woman. The man of my dreams does not want me. He does not love me, but I can be loved. I am not deficient. I am not at fault. I am not difficult. I am not lacking, so I do not sit at home and cry for him. I do not sit at home and cry over him. I do not mourn for him. I do not cry over him. I do not burn his clothes. I do not slash his tires. I do not confront the other woman. I am at peace with my version of womanhood, and society will adjust. Today, I am a woman being with no strings attached. Thank you.
Oh my God, what a beautiful and powerful performance. Thank you so very much. I think listening to your poem also made me as a woman feel very powerful, and that kind of shows on the faces of everybody on this panel. Everybody feels more powerful, more energized. Our energy is just lifted. So thank you so much, Pindu, for the gift of your poem. It really was really empowering. Um, and on that really solid and strong and powerful note, we move on to our next poet, whose name is Seep. Seep is a spoken word artist who believes accepting uncertainty is actually great evidence of courage and hopes to be remembered by her poems. Seep, I would love for you to tell a little bit about yourself, and also share with us how you feel about art's role both in education and activism. Just your thoughts on them.
Thank you so much, Jagasa. Hi, everybody. My name is Seep, and I'm a spoken word artist. And I really believe that arts can be a really powerful tool for us to take ownership over our stories and tell them the way we want to, and really be ourselves. The poem I'm going to be performing right now is called A Statement of Purpose. And I actually wrote it as a replacement to a college essay I was writing when I was in the process of applying for a master's degree. And I realized that this entire notion of trying to sum our stories into 400 or 500 words was very disillusioning to me. And I think in the process of writing this poem, I also found my voice and really found what I want to do as part of my aim and my mission in life. So I really hope you connect with it. It's called A Statement of Purpose. I want to start this by saying I do not know how to say this. There are too many people who've said what I want to, but someone once told me our stories are not like the ocean in the sense that they're all consuming, but like the ocean in the sense that you could hear the waves crashing for hours and still not tire of the voice. So I'm hoping there is dignity when I drown. Also, this will sound more like a poem than I intended to, because I don't know how else to say that I'm 20 and I want to change the world. Or that when I look into the mirror, I sometimes don't see me at all, but all the people I wish I could be. Or that I feel like I'm missing something, like looking at my life, but like an outsider, always through binoculars and zooming in on the wrong path. So like in a waiting line to sadness, wondering if this is my cue to stop being happy. There's no one way to turn 2 decades into 400 words, I have learned. There's no one way to say that here, this took my life and turned it upside down like an hourglass, so I'm looking for who I am again. And funny, because I'm now at a point in my life where I get to decide who I want to be for the rest of it. A conundrum I do not know my way around, because last summer when I was so sure, I was told to detach, work on the science. Darling, there is really no room for emotions in here, and now I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not sure I can handle any more detachment. I'm not sure these fingers can touch bloodstains and not tremble. I'm so terrified of the world and all its people. But this is not my scared poem. This is not my angry poem or my passive aggressive poem. This is only to say that there is as great a chance that you and I are not feeling as there is about our lives turning out to be exactly as we've planned 5 years from now. So excuse me if I do not choose detachment as a career option. You see, 20-year-olds are expected to change the world but also conform to it. Live but between the start and stop. Be but without the being. So one. My voice is a teenage girl getting her first piercing. The courage comes as a consequence of it. 2, a woman disappeared into thin air a few months ago, but everyone who knew her only ever remembers the aftermath. How when they found her, she remembered everyone but herself. How she had answers but no questions. I do not want to be that woman. 3, I'm very bad at learning a new language. I couldn't find the answer to where I'm from for days, and I kept changing it every time somebody said, how are you? So my teacher asked me to remember only the easy answers. I'm still learning what that means. 4, last September, I cried for a week. 5, on the 8th day, I wrote I had a yellow day on the inside of my hands and carried it around like a leaf I was tired of hurting. I treated my days with the delicacy only others saved for me. A tenderness like my body was a house made of matchsticks, so I had to protect it from all the lightning that came our way. I put my fears into a box, called it a body. Added all my mistakes to it, called it a house. Colored it with all the laughter I could find, called it home. We learned to live here now, I said. 6, on the 15th day, I stopped crying. My calendar, a rainbow I'd never really read about. My insides more metaphors than oxygen. 7, this is only to say that nobody ever gets why I study biology and write poetry. I don't do. All I know is that poetry saved me when biology couldn't. So 8, maybe I like my metaphors a little broken and my poems a little unfinished. Maybe there's a little unfinished in all of us, a little incomplete. Maybe there are spaces here that no amount of validation or college acceptances can fill. A space that is ours to hold, ours to mold, ours to color, ours to fill with whatever makes this body a more of a home. 9, I'm learning how to fill this space, learning how to be like I first wrote a poem. Sometimes in the middle of the night with trembling hands, but sometimes in a room full of people, wondering why I haven't been doing this all the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seep, for sharing your beautiful poem again with all of us. And thank you, everybody, all of you, for coming in here in this digital world and in this digital space, bearing the gifts of your being and your poems and sharing with us your voice. It was lovely to hear from you, to have your voices here. And I hope that all the listeners of the poems today resonated with some. And it might be just a shift which is very little, but I hope that it shifted something inside of you. So that's all from us today. And I hope you have a nice day wherever you are, in whatever time zone. And we brought you a little spark in the middle of this pandemic. Thank you.